I felt very, very happy for you and for your entire family. So
that moment will always be really dear in my heart because like through my hard work, through my resiliency, I was able to make my family rise, to make their heart feel better, my mom make her heart feel better, and for fucking 15, 20 minutes, I had the power to make them forget about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they were just thinking about right now, what are we doing? Win, 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 you know? And like, it was really cool to give my family that moment, to give them a 15, 20-minute break where it's like, yo, nothing else matters. But this is real life shit. This is fight or flight survival stuff. Like, in a cage, locked, real shit. You know what I mean? So everybody forgot for 15, 20 minutes.
What is up, ladies and gents? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Rafa Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hour. We have an excellent guest with us here today. More on him. I mean, he's helping me out here. My man's putting away my shit. That's what I feel really bad about right now. But we have a great episode for you guys. So before we get to him, a few things that we want to remind you with. First and foremost, if you want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/grappling hour. If you head there, you'll see these interviews 30 days before anybody else. And if you want to pay a few extra dollars, you can become a premium member where you get extra bonus content not available anywhere else, including tape studies where we watch the fights or matches with the athletes themselves and they give us insight into what they do. There's a segment called Roast Raf where people roast my competition footage. Now, granted, this isn't like they're helping me get better. They're literally just coming to make fun of it. For whatever reason, that is our most popular segment. Don't know why. And you can also catch our new series called The Road to ADCC, where we'll be breaking down how some people are going to that maybe secondary tournament. We'll see. We don't know. But yes, we're going to look at the way that some of the guys have made their way to the big dance, and we're very excited to do that segment. So that is for our premium users. If you could also like, comment, and subscribe, that also helps us out a lot. If you have nothing that you want to comment on by the end of this video, we will give you a prompt by the end of it. So don't worry, we have a lot to talk about here. Last but not least, follow us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. It's all at Grappling Hour. You can find us on every major channel, including TikTok, which is kind of wild because I never imagined I would be on there, but I think some of our clips do fairly well for whatever reason there. So we got all that. And I think the last thing, if you like this shirt, you want to support the brand, look at this. Rafa Esparza's own Grappling Hour. You go to rafesparza.com/merch. Get yourself one of these shirts. We have them in 4 different colors, or you get yourself a hoodie to stay warm when you're going out to compete. So I know that's what a lot of people have been using for. T-shirts, $25, hoodies, $45, or a combination of the two at $60. So save yourself some money on that. All right, our guest. Well, you know what makes me very happy is we have a lot of friends within the community, and as an objective reporter, it is hard to sit back when you have seen people in the training room and you have seen them put in the work. And even though you're not there every single day with them, it is cool when I get to see certain guests like the one we have here today joining us over at New Ground, and now part of the extended New Ground family over here at Matador. But my man trains a number of places. I've watched his work for years. And he had such a great performance at the recent Lights Out Xtreme Fighting event that I said, you know, enough's enough. I think it's time that we finally get together and do an interview. So I'm very, very happy, sir, to finally bring you on this show. And I have to say this. One, RICK ZELADA, how does it feel to be on the show for the very first time,
Man,
sir?
It feels great. Thank you so much for having me. You know, like you said, I've seen you around here and there on the scene. And it's nice to sit down and, you know, have a conversation with you and get to know each other. So let's do it, man.
So, Rick, have we trained before? And if so, do you have any memory of it?
I want to say I think I hit a open mat over at New Ground, one of the Sunday ones. You know, if you're not going, you should go. They're popping. And, yeah, and we rolled it up there. You know, we made good talk, good little vibes. And then, look, I'm here now.
You are here now. And, I mean, the weird part to me is whenever I roll with somebody, I try to take note of what they do and how they do certain things. And in your particular case, I already know that you fight.
Yeah.
So there's a certain thing where my brain works like this. Oh God, oh God, oh God, don't fuck anything up. Like if he's got to fight, don't do anything stupid. Don't fall on him. It's not like I think I'm going to sit there and submit you a million times. I literally just in my head go, don't fuck up this man's ability to make a living fighting. And, you have great skill, and we'll get into who and where you train with, but I see you over at Cobrinia's as well. So is that where you do your jiu-jitsu training out of?
That's my main gym. The whole time I'm one of the guys that, I started and I really wanted to do them separately.
Mm-hmm.
The goal was always to do MMA, but I wanted to learn everything separately.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was going to mix them up, right? I was going to learn the ingredients. I was going to learn the recipes, but I was going to make my own. I never, like I see now that like most of the places, they're one-stop shops.
Mm-hmm.
They teach grappling under one roof. They teach the striking under one roof. They teach the integration, the MMA of all the styles under one roof. I never really liked that. I always liked going to specialists, learning their specific recipes, and then mixing them myself. That was the fun part to me. That's the artist part for me. Now it's a little more advanced and like everyone knows everything now. But back in the day, it was a little more specific. And I really enjoyed that, So I'm a long time Cobrina Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. I'm a purple belt over there, almost a brown belt. I'll get my black belt over there under the best grappler at my weight class in the world. I'm over doing my Muay Thai at Saxon's Muay Thai. I've been over there since I've spent my 20s over there. I got there at 20. I'm now 29, so 9 years. Working my Muay Thai over there, Coach Julio and the Saxon crew. And then, I met Marcos along the road, and now I'm here at Matador, and I'm sharing some of the stuff that I've learned over my years in my career. And, now, like I said, everything's under one roof, so I kind of get to teach that integration that I went and did myself on the, you know what I mean? Like, I would get ready for fights, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, and literally just show up the day of the fight and mix them. That was always my style. And to me, if I couldn't do that, then I'm not real. You know what I mean? If I can't do that, then I'm not a real fucking artist, man. Like, you should be able to go and draw up a piece real quick, not rehearse, not anything. Like that's how I always looked at it, and that's how I carry myself. So
I think what speaks to what you've mentioned here is that you didn't just go to anybody in jiu-jitsu. You went to somebody. When you say a specialist, like Cobrina is one of the guys. And the fact that he has such a storied career in ADCC, he was also such a beast as a competitor, like multiple
Grand Slam
times.
world champion.
I mean,
Professor Cobra, man, the best.
Legitimately, I went, I've gone to his gym a couple times, and when I've gone to his school, those people don't play, man. Like those rounds are hard. But they're all so proficient, and you feel like you're battling mini hymns half the time. And so I very much appreciate what he's doing. So I could see what you're talking about in terms of piecing it together, because I'm a big fan of this. When somebody in my world who I coach or I'm around says, I want to fight, I go, I have a small piece of the pie and I can help you in certain areas. But the goal is always to hand you back to somebody else and say like, all right, this is your MMA coach. They're going to take care of these things. Or this is your wrestling coach. But for these parts of jiu-jitsu that I think are fundamentals or sound techniques that I think are important to know, it's like, yeah, I'm happy to help you here or give you hard rounds. But like, I feel like the specialist route is something that I share as well, which is, listen, dude, when you come up to me, I'm not going to fool you around and be like, oh, I'm this guy at this. I go, no, I can help you in these areas. So I think it's really important that people understand, it's a career that you're doing. You're basically assembling the perfect fighter and trying to make that happen. Well, let's get into this because you had a great fight. And we were talking off air, and I got to tell you that I got to take this one off. And normally I'm working it in some capacity, either commentating, photographing, work behind the scenes, producing. But I got to enjoy your fight in full. And
I hope you enjoyed the show, man. The Slick Show.
Okay, hold on. We should also get into this because we're now getting to actually talk after years of kind of seeing each other. Do you know how much this messed me up? Because I kept thinking, I was like, is his name like Zelda? And I wouldn't look at the name for the longest time. And I was like, so he's got Slick as one of his nicknames, But then when I started thinking of this, I was like, oh, I think to a certain fighter, I was like, do you know that Zelda fighter? They're like, no, that's not his last name. And I was like, are you kidding? Oh shit, they're using this to trick me. So how many nicknames did you have and where did you get those nicknames?
Man, I only have one. I only have one nickname, Slick Rick. That name was given to me by my first street teacher, instructor, Jared Crazy Legs Carlston, 10th Planet Black Belt. One of the first guys to go on the Ultimate Fighter and really rep that system. Yeah, man. And, you know, I still till this day go check in with him. I was just texting him the other day, just telling him, you know, thank you so much for giving me the name. Thank you so much for giving me an identity. Thank you so much for planting a seed and telling me, like, hey, man, you could do this if you really want to. Yeah. So Jared Carlston, man, was a big influence early on. You know what I mean? He just planted the seed, you know. I watered it, of course, and I've grown some fruits. But, like, if it wasn't for that man digging a hole and planting the seed and covering it and, you know, giving a couple words of encouragement, like, I wouldn't be here right now. So I'm very grateful. Jared Carlston, appreciate you, man. You're the best. Crazy Legs.
I mean, he's still teaching over at Burbank, right?
Yeah, he's the owner of 10th Planet Burbank. That was where I had my first martial arts experience. It was the closest thing to my house. My parents were, you know, I was like 17, end of high school. And my parents were like, you want to do this? Cool. But find out how to get there. We're not taking you. We're not picking you up. You know, so I started riding my bike. And then if my bike wasn't around, I would jog, I would walk, you know. But I always wanted to go learn, man. I always wanted to go learn.
Okay, we'll take a second here to go here first, since you're kind of bringing this up naturally. You know, I must have just missed you guys because I was of the era of 10th Planet before that happened. So, like, I was over at Burbank. That's where I started my journey too. And I really liked being there. And things were happening where I couldn't go all the time, but I was still, like, keeping my membership. I wanted to be like, I was one of those guys who wasn't able to go because of things in my family that I had to take care of. And I just remember being like, I'm going to keep paying because I want the gym to survive and thrive. I want it to be good. But I also was like, I do like the instructors here. And I felt like as I was leaving there, I was like, you know what? It's a good gym. I'll come back and visit every once in a while. And I remember coming back, and I remember being there when I took like one class from Jared, and I just wanted to see what he was like. And I was like, oh, he's a good instructor. Like, that's really cool to see as a kid. Someone's like visiting a high school that nobody knows you were a part of, where I was just like, oh, I used to go here. This was I was like, nobody gives a shit. I just go, I want to see what it's like. So that's very, very cool. What do you remember about your first jiu-jitsu class? And was it the first martial arts experience that you had?
Yeah, definitely. I do a lot of research, you know. I'm always doing a lot of research. Before I speak on anything, before I act on anything, before I do anything, a lot of the work is done, you know. I might not act like it, but, like, a lot of the work is done, and I've done my research. So I started, like, I played basketball. Played basketball my whole life. Played basketball all 4 years of high school. And started picking up jiu-jitsu around 11th grade, end of 11th grade, going to 12th grade on a summer break, right? Summer break from school, summer break from basketball. I was training every day, man, twice a day. It was brand new to me. I loved it. The jiu-jitsu experience, that's what the question was, right? What was my first jiu-jitsu experience? When I went there, I had already, like, my dad was always watching the UFC, my brother, you know, like, I never really cared for it. I never really watched it. I was like, this is fucking annoying, right? Like, beat one of these guys up. Fuck these UFC fighters, right? That's how I was, man. I was like, fuck these guys. And then, I went and I stole some stuff from a store. Turns out the security guard was a jiu-jitsu purple belt. So I'm running away with all this stuff. He's like, hey, wait. And I'm like, yeah. Take off, right? And then he grabs me by the back, the little hoop. He grabs my hip and he hip throws me. Right in front of it was a CVS. Right in front of the CVS sliding doors, man. Like, I made it opened. He grabbed me, put my arms behind my back, shook out all the stuff, whatever. Got all the stuff I stole, brought me to the back room, right? Brought me to the back room, sat me down, and I'm like, yo, what was that? And he's like, what? And I'm like, what did you just hit me with? You know? Because I had already seen like UFC and I watched the YouTube videos. I'm like, what was that? What technique was that? And he's like, oh, it was a hip throw. And I'm like, oh, it was nice. It was nice. Cool. And then, you know, he's like, I saw we kind of made a connection because he was like, maybe he's not a bad kid. Maybe he's, you know, he's just fucking around. And I was. And then, and so he's like, yeah, man, it's jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, where do you train? Where do you learn it? You know, told me some other random spot. But I remember always seeing that 10th Planet Burbank spot because I was always riding my bike, or like walking around or jogging around, you know, getting ready for basketball tournaments, basketball. And I was always curious. And then, so after that, got thrown on my fucking head, got all my stuff, got embarrassed in front of all these people, right? Felt bad for me. He's like, you know what? We're not going to call the cops, man. You're a good kid. But call a guardian, and they have to come pick you up, and you can't ever come here again. I'm like, you got it. Called my big brother. My big brother came. He's like, what are you fucking doing, idiot? Slapped me around. He's like, get in the car. Come on. Next day, I rode my bike to 10th Planet Burbank. I signed up. And at first, it was kind of like, I'm getting that fucking security guard back. I'm getting him back. In a year, I hope he's still working there. I'm getting him back. But then it became like, you know what? No, like that guy was the catalyst. That guy, an angel in my eyes now, right? Mm-hmm. Like if he didn't do that to me, I would have never, you know, that was kind of like the last straw that like really, really, really made me go sign up. There's a lot of other ones that happened to me before, but like that was the one where I was like, wow, I need to learn this shit, you know? And then, yeah, and then I started training jiu-jitsu, and the jiu-jitsu experience was awesome. I already came kind of prepared. I did my research, watched the YouTube. I knew all the like passes. I knew all the positions. I knew everything. Went in there, you know, quiet kid, the youngest one on the mat, and did okay. And took direction well. And, you know, right away, like within a week, I went every day, twice a day. Jared kind of took a liking to me. I started hitting people with submissions within the first week. And he's like, hey, man, that was really slick. And bam, that was where the name came from, you know. My first week, I got my name. And he's like, you're slick as fuck, dude.
That's cool.
You know, just kind of off of instinct and off of YouTube videos. Yeah, and just a lifetime of basketball.
That's so weird. I don't hear a ton of people having basketball as their primer to coming in. Was there kind of a handoff at a certain point where you go, all right, basketball, this has been fun.
Yeah,
but
I think
I got to give you up.
I think like in 10th grade, 2010, I realized, you know what? I don't think I'm going to make it to the NBA. My dad's 5'9". You know, I'm Salvadorian. I'm like, I can't dunk. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make it, man. Just my body is not, you know. But I realized I have a really long, lanky body for MMA in the 135-pound division. Yeah. So it went from like, man, I wasn't enough to, man. You know, that's just how my mind works though, right? Like I will always see the positive. I will always see the light in the dark place. Like it went from, hey, I don't think I'm going to make it to the NBA. I'm too short. I don't have these athletic attributes. But hey, I can go beat some of these dudes' asses, and I'm way bigger than them, and I'm way longer than them, and I'm way stronger than them, and faster than them, and I think differently than all of them. Yeah. You know, and it just became a switch. So I think 18, I made that promise to myself, and I'm here now 9 years later, and I made my promise that I would be in the UFC by 10. So it's coming up, man. 12 months.
Hey, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah.
I find it, you know, so wild. Everybody has a different journey. And when they do end up showing up to their first class, I almost guarantee you nobody knew that story for you. Like when you walk in. So you walk in and I'm sure in your brain, you're like, all right, I got to get my shit together. I'm sure they're looking at you like, all right, new guy. Yeah. Like come just learn with us.
And I was 17 years old. So I went in there and I'm like, all right, man, I'm fresh meat and I'm a meal for someone. Like, but I'm not being a meal for someone, you know, like.
You know, it's very funny that I have a similar but different experience where I went to 10th Planet and, you know, I never thought, I played a lot of different sports as a kid, but I was never like super good at anything. I was just like, okay, you know, and I went to that 10th Planet and it was after months of my buddies and I would kind of grapple. And, you know, in all those formative years where I played those sports, if anybody was like wrestling or messing around, I was always super durable. So I show up And my first few days, the instructors are all kind of like, oh, they're not catching you. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know anything. They're like, you don't have bad instincts. Like, you kind of know how to defend things. And I go, sure. I didn't know that was my superpower yet. So that now to this day, when people are like, man, I can't sub you. And I'm like, it's my weird superpowers. That doesn't mean you can't. It just means I know what you need.
Good survival instincts.
Yeah, and I go, it's just some people operate off of kill mode. Some people are highly technical. I go, my thing is, I just know what you need, and I make sure that you don't get it.
Yep.
And when that happens, you find that you're going to be around, or you're valuable to people who fight, where you go, I'm not going to hurt you. You know, like, you can do whatever you want. I'll survive. And if you're catching me, that's actually really good for you. So when I did go there, I was actually training with a couple buddies who were at the time in the military. And we would start back to back. And then they'd be like, go.
Turn around. Go. Those are fun. Or you put the knife in the middle and you're on your belly and you got to get up. First one to get the knife.
But when they did that, like, I showed up and they're like, all right, free training, go roll. And like day one, I'm like giving my back to them. And everybody was like, what is this idiot doing? And I just remembered thinking like, oh, we don't do that here? Yeah. So I don't know any different. I'm just the idiot that's at this place. So at the exact same gym, years later, you would show up, you would unwittingly, maybe at the time, be finding that next thing for you that actually becomes a career. So one of the questions I like to ask on this show is, when did you fall in love with grappling? Because it takes a lot to be able to do this as like an actual career. So there has to be a moment that you decide, I'm not just going to be a hobbyist at this. I really do love this. I want to pursue it as a passion.
I think I decided that the day I got thrown on my head, and I'm like, I need to know this, and I'm making sure that nobody does this to me ever again. You know, and that was the passion, and that still is. Like, I carry that moment that, like, I'm not getting punked like that again. Like, I'm never. I don't care if it's a UFC champion. You're not doing it to me. The heavyweight champion. You're not doing it to me. There's always a way. There's always an answer. Like, you're not. Sorry. And, yeah, that's kind of, like, what drives me, man. Like, never again.
You know, you're in good company because that's a lot of fighters. Yeah. So, you know, you're in this weird space where I'm sure to other civilians, it might be like, man, I was a bad kid. I'm like, you know what? We found the right career for you. Because there's a lot of hooligans I've met in my time who have gone to MMA. And there's a lot of normal folks. But I just always think to myself, when you see those kids who found the outlet, you're so appreciative because this is an art. So you found the ability to be an artist at a completely difficult time. And the influence it could have clearly in helping you shape up your life and find the ability to take what was probably already your ability to hone in and do research and now do it in a way that makes you excited, where you're like, oh, I want to learn this throw. I want to learn how I'm doing this. And if you're already subbing people that first week, that's, you know, early in the experience. Yeah, that's really cool and dope to do too. Do you remember like the first move that you remembered hitting proficiently? What's that?
Triangles. Right away. It just came very naturally to me, the triangle. And, you know, Jared was a specialist at the triangle. They call him Crazy Legs. So right away, he knew, like, that's why he would look at my setups and he would be like, oh, that's a valid answer. That's a valid answer. Well, okay. He's like, well, you're pretty slick. You know, like, from a triangle guy, that was a nice triangle, you know? Like, so, yeah, that was always, like, my deadliest, my sharpest blade. And, I mean, it kind of still is, you know? Yeah, but the triangle.
So how did you find your way over to Cabrinha? Because I'm sure at a certain point you start, when you're finding those specialists, you said you did your research, you went over to Cabrinha. What was those first days or experiences like? Because you come in with some knowledge, and I'm sure, like, the nice part about knowing the 10th Planet style, I like to tell people is, I may not go there anymore. Like, one of my lineages is a Jean-Jacques lineage, so I'm essentially a cousin still. Yeah. But I tell people, I'm like, I'm so grateful that I went there, because even if they are so much more advanced than when I went, at least now in my older age, I have instincts that get me out of trouble and make sure that, like, my body's safe. Like, those guys are so good at wrecking limbs, your knees, all that sort of stuff. And even if I'm caught in a certain position, I'm in a way where I'm still safe because I know what they're doing. Where I feel some schools, they don't even touch some of their techniques. So having that base is good, but what did it feel like to start then making your way over to Cabrinha?
Man, so I think I went through a phase. There was a little bit of a fallout over there at the Burbank one, change in management, change in teachers. It was just like so much switch, man. Like every other week, like different. Every
Yeah.
other week, different. You know, so I just, and then I started like I wanted to do everything, like MMA. I'm like, fuck, you know, like I need my grappling tight and I need my striking tight, but I don't want to do them all under one place. Like I want to do them separate.
Yeah.
And that's just how I am. Like I like one thing over there, I like one thing over there. I get bored with this, cool. I'm gonna go over here. I get bored with this, cool. I'm gonna just be by myself. I'm bored of both of them. You know, so I like keeping things separate in my life, and I've always have, and I always will. But yeah, I think I went through a phase after all that falling out and stuff. I started watching and researching more and like really watching like old school documentaries, the Voodoo videos, the Jeff Glover stuff. You know, I was fortunate enough to have like Jeff Glover and Bill Cooper. They moved kind of down the street from me. And then I was a little runt and I was going over there every day, man, basically like hanging out with them and just getting privates from them and like, you know, just kicking it with them. And then they left. And then after all the documentaries, all this stuff, like I really grew a curiosity and a want to like do the gi life, right? And like do all the gi stuff. I started going through a gi phase, right? For about 2 years, man. My whole blue belt, like hardcore gi, a lot of tournaments. I did this tournament called the Baddest Blue Belt. It was a huge division. It was from 140 to 175. No time limit, submission only. This is when like the submission only started, you know? So, yeah, I just started doing the gi a lot. I was winning titles. I was happy, man. The gi was cool, you know? And then, that's when I went over to Cobrinha because I'm like, who's the best? Cobrinha. And then, so yeah, I started learning gi over there. And then the jiu-jitsu got good. You know, I went through my jiu-jitsu phase. And then kind of broke up with it. Kind of was like, oh, this is kind of boring. You know, like, I don't want to be in these pajamas anymore. Like, you know, like, this is, you know. And then I went through a hardcore striking phase for about a year or two. You know, and then still at Cobrinha, still training, you know, but started going to Saxon's Muay Thai. And man, I've been lucky, like, you know, like God's taking care of me and like I've gotten to the right places at the right time. You know what I mean? Just by soul searching and doing it and going towards it, like I get rewarded and like it meets me halfway, you know? So when I got to Saxon's, it was crazy, man. It was awesome. A lot of 35ers, all pro, really good. So I had a standard right away. And I came in like, all right, you know what I mean? I was a good grappler. I was a stud grappler. They didn't really have grapplers over there. Saxon Muay Thai, you know, we were specialists. We were just badass strikers, hardcore, good traditional Muay Thai, you know, some of the best Muay Thai, traditional Muay Thai you could get around here in all of LA. So I went over there, you know, heavy Muay Thai binge, like 2 years, man. And I'm like, I'm not stopping until like I'm one of the top guys here. I'm one of the top, you know, lighter weight guys. And I did that, you know. But when I got there, I was lucky because there was like Bellator fighters, there was like M1 fighters, there was UFC fighters, it was just such a hot spot. And since I was one of the only guys that did grappling and like kind of all of it, that's where it started to form. Like I had the grappling, don't really have the MMA, but I have the striking now. But I'm being asked to make MMA for these guys to be their training partner on the fly, and you know, and how am I going to say no? Like, of course, like I want to learn it. That's the goal, to mix them. And so that was like my test. You know, I would get like little tests there every day, like MMA with these people, and I'm like, oh, cool. Well, you guys gave me the Muay Thai. I already have the Jiu Jitsu with me. Let me try to mix them. Let me try to make my own art. And that's what I would do. And I did that to the point where my style became different. I got to the top. And yeah, so, you know, I've stuck around over there. Now I'm an instructor. I'm over there repping the flag all over the world and trying my best to just hold it down and represent, man. But
I laugh because a mutual homie, Kevin Lizardo.
Yeah,
like
Kevin.
You guys could pass as family. Like when I see
my
the
son
two of
devil.
you, like I
That's my stunt double, man.
I love the shit out of that kid, and he is, you know, I knew when he was starting to go work with you guys that he would have a great outlet because I grapple with him, and I think the world of him. He's got a great work ethic, and when he was like, "Oh, I'm starting to work over Osaka-san," I was like, "Oh shit, dude, you're gonna level up." Like that's so great, and I could see his progress happening. We'll get into the other members of that team because it also comes into the LXF
Shout
stories.
out to Kevin Luzardo.
But
Love you, dude.
I want to kind of go back to this one thing because you mentioned we were in the Baddest Blue, and I want to say at some point I think I saw you.
Yeah.
And did you enjoy doing those sub-only tournaments? Because I think only certain types of people like it. So I'm a big proponent of when I roll with somebody, there are certain guys that I do marathon rounds with. I don't put it on a clock. I put on one clock, which is for an hour. And I just say, all right, we're going to roll. I don't care how this works. Like, you could sub me a million times. Yeah. I'm going to learn. But I usually feel like it's going to be good for me and that person.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like that because they get anxiety. They want a round. They want a buzzer. They feel like, I don't know. It's just something throws them off. Yeah. But I loved that era when it was coming up where they'd be like, yo, sub-only tournaments. Yeah, and I thought for blue belts, to have that. So what was that experience like for you?
That was a really cool experience. I remember coming in that day and there was about 80 people. 80 people, bro. 140 to 175. 80 people. I had 10 matches that day.
Oh my God.
I got to the semifinals. I fought this big old Russian dude, like 6'1", 175, probably cut weight. I was like 21. I was 140. Fucking ate pizza the night before. You know what I mean? Like just pulled up and just did the damn thing, you know? And like I did pretty good, man. Literally I subbed. You have to sub everyone. Yeah. I subbed everyone. I subbed 10 people. I subbed 9 people. 10th match, I lost to this Russian guy. I made this Russian guy go 48 minutes, and I made him hold the choke for like 5 minutes, dude. And in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to get out of this, but you're blowing your arms out on me. Yeah. Man. And whoever gets you next, God bless them. And
so wait, when you roll for 48 minutes in one match, what people may not know on the context of this is that meant you had 8 other matches, right?
Yeah.
How long did those go?
Man, match number 1, I think, was like 2 minutes. Match number 2, probably like 5. Match number 3, like 20 minutes. Match number 4, like 15. Match number 5, like 25. Yeah, I rolled for like 3 hours that day. Like legit, I rolled for like 3 hours that day. And but they were pretty good. They were pretty organized. So like you were only off for like 10 minutes and then bam. You know
so
what I mean?
It's not and I'm glad you mentioned that because the people who put that together, that used to be Dream.
No, they're awesome. I love their tournaments.
Them. Like
the kids tournaments are really good too, man.
Way back with Dream, and I remembered covering as many of those as possible because I just thought to myself, and this is before
I want to say that's where the first place I saw you too.
Yeah,
it has to be. Yeah, it has to be. You were probably in that room.
So that was, again, years before I was competing, where I was just like, all right, I just like covering this. It's fun. Yeah. And for the very first baddest Browns and baddest experiences, I was interviewing people. And I had told them, I'm like, I do a particular style of live coverage interview. And they're like, what is it? I go, it's kind of like a roast, but it's entertaining. And it's kind of risky, but follow me on it.
Risque.
and I guarantee you the funniest part about it was, like, we're talking like people like Drew Sklove. That's where he and I, or not even that, but like people like that in that
I'm
area.
good friends with Drew. He's cool.
We would meet each other, and when I would roast them, I think Drew competed in the Newaza Challenge when I was a commentator. And I remember making fun of his hair. And I was like, look at this guy coming in here with this great hair and thinking he's gonna wreck this tournament. Like, bro, that's not gonna happen.
Handsome guy with his gray hair.
And I guess
his tattoos.
His mom was watching, and he comes up to me a little bit later. We don't know each other that well, and he's just like, "Hey, man, my mom saw what you said about my hair," and I was like, "Oh." And he's like, "She laughed a lot," and I go, "Oh yeah, I'm very funny, man. You'll learn that." And we became friends off of stuff like that. So, dude, when we had the baddest brown and baddest blue, I would do these interviews with people. And I'd be thinking to myself, I'm like, the last thing they want to do is talk to somebody after they've had these massive matches. But it was the only way, in my opinion.
I do remember that. I remember people would be pulled to the side.
Yeah.
I didn't get pulled to the side.
I mean, you're pulled now, bro. Like, your story ended up okay. But I do know that it was my way of trying to circumvent the elephant in the room, which was, sir, you've grappled for 3 hours. Like, or you've grappled for this. So what it became to me was this way of doing what I do best and what I thought exploited them in the best way possible, which was, let's show the personality of the people it takes to do those tournaments. And the thing that makes me so happy and wilds me out was on your Tapology profile.
It's a picture.
Is your picture of that. So I had a weird flashback because the hair was shorter back then. And I had a moment where I go, I think that might have been the first place where we might have kind of seen each other, or I might have been in the area, but it might have been how I was becoming familiar with you. And, you know, all these years later, obviously, fates have it. Small communities, we see each other at certain open mats, or we run into each other because mutual friends. And then getting to see you continue to do great things in the MMA sphere has been really, really fun. So I want to transition now to the actual most recent fight. And part of the reason why I was previewing this as talking a little bit about his team, it was a team affair that day. Like, it wasn't just you. You had Keenan doing his his fight as well. And there was one gentleman, I forget his name, but he was earlier in the evening as well. He was the gentleman with the spinning back fist, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a moment. That was a really cool moment. I like that because especially when I don't know everybody, I try to know everybody. And then that dude, when I saw that spinning back fist, I was like, hello, all right, who's this kid? Yeah. So it was
that was Devin, my friend. We had another teammate, Steve, that night. Didn't go his way. But, you know, we got out there and he did his thing. Keenan killed it. I killed it. We went home safe. You know, we got some food after. You know, can't complain, man. It was a great night.
And big shout out to Keenan because
big shout out.
Big brother Keen. Every takedown that dude visualized he had, and I was I was looking at it and I just thought to myself, I was like, now, and just instantaneously.
Man. Keenan's a beast, and he's really good, man.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. So let's get to your fight. To me, what was happening going into that fight? I was trying to figure it out when I was listening to the post-fight, and I got bits and pieces, and then I pieced it together afterwards. But what was happening going into that fight, like that day and day before for you?
All right. So my grandmother passed away the morning of my fight. 4 a.m. My grandmother passed. I fought like 8 p.m. The night before, you know, after weigh-ins, I was eating a lot, and then I was running errands, dropping off last-minute tickets, going to the bank, you know, just doing errands, just making sure everything's done so tomorrow I can just focus on my fight and go in there and kill it, right? Getting haircuts, braids, all that stuff. And then at the end of my night, it was like 11:45. My grandmother lived down the street from my house. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. I grew up with her. She took care of me a lot. I spent hours with her, you know. I loved her. And then something told me to go visit her after all my errands. So I'm like, you know what? All right, cool. I'm going to go visit her. She had been kind of in bed rest, hospice, but at her house, you know. We were able to do that. Put her in her own room. The family was visiting her all week. I had been visiting her too all week, but something just told me to go that night. So I went. 11:45. My mother was on watch that night. You know, she has a lot of siblings, so they all kind of switch. It was her turn. She was watching my grandma. I went over there. I said what's up to my grandma. You know, gave her a kiss. Told her I'm fighting tomorrow. Love you. I'm gonna go win. Told my mom, love you. Good night. Let me know if you need anything. Left to the house. My mom stayed the night. At 4 a.m., a couple hours later, after I left, my grandmother started convulsing and all that stuff. She passed. She passed in my mother's arms. My mother witnessed it all, saw it all, held her on her last breaths. I wake up next morning. My mom's back home. She looks like a mess, looks like a wreck, you know. I assume was a rough night. She was up all night, didn't sleep right, you know. She's been stressing, you know, all good. Keeps it together all day, keeps it a secret all day, sends a text to the family, tells everyone, hey, don't post anything, don't say anything until after Rick's fight. And then so I go in there, I kill it. And then they bring my mom in. My mom gets on the mic, and as you saw, she was holding it in that her mother passed all day. And then that's when she just went off on the mic, and she just started, you know, she was just expressing herself. And then, but that's a hard secret to keep for 10, 12 hours, you know. And then so it was just her expressing herself, getting it all out. And then she dropped the bomb on me. She's like, his grandma died today. And I'm like, what? You know, so I'm like, what? But with the adrenaline and everything, like there's so much going on in the crowd. Like it hit me. I had a couple tears, and then they gave me the mic, and I'm like, oh shit, you know, I gotta talk. But yeah, I got back to the locker room, said hi to everyone, took pictures, took all my stuff off, you know, really took a seat, and then I was like, and then it hit me, man, and like I just kind of broke down in the locker room in the back. But yeah, rest in peace, Grandma. Love you. I'm gonna make it and make her proud, man. You know, and it's definitely a date that I'll never forget. You know, May 18th, 2024, and yeah, I fought. I got my first finish in California as a professional, and my grandmother passed away. You know, so definitely a very important date in my life, and a vivid memory for sure.
Well, first and foremost, condolences, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So that's why I bring up the confusion.
Yeah.
So full disclosure, after you won, I went to the bar. So I was like, we want bar. Like, I'm going to beat everybody there.
Yeah.
So they had it on. And my recollection of this was at the bar, you can't always make sense of what the words are. So here I'm being like, oh, dude, Rick killed it. I'm talking to a couple people. And then I'm like, that's awesome. Oh, his mom's in there. That's so cute. Okay, that's great. And then I see you get emotional. I was like, what? Okay, cool. And I get this beer, and I'm just like, this is a cool family moment. Good for them. That's awesome. And then I start kind of like hearing parts of it as I walk in.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, wait, they had a family passing. Oh, my God. Now, at that time, I was under the impression you knew going into the fight that that was a reality.
Yeah.
But instead, your mom wanted to make sure it didn't affect you in any way.
Yeah. My mom's a G.
How did you feel afterwards? Because to not be told something like that, sometimes people might have an adverse reaction to it.
Yeah.
And you're finding out in the cage where maybe just 10 seconds earlier, you're thinking like, I just fucking won. This is dope. So
it was
a
like
rush of emotion.
You know, what was the question again? Sorry.
It was, how did you feel getting told there?
Oh, okay.
Because to me, not every family would do that.
Yeah.
And it does show how much your mom knows how important this is to you.
I was very grateful. Very, very grateful that they went about it that way. They handled it that way. You know, I have a good like sixth sense. And like I said, I grew up with my grandma, and she lived literally down the street. Like I knew, man, like something inside, like I woke up and like I felt a little empty, a little quiet, you know. I hugged my mom and like I looked her in the eyes, and like it was a look like I had never really seen in her eyes, you know what I mean? But I was like, well, there's a job to be done today, Rick, you know, whatever. Like, and then once they told me, I was like, now I know, now it makes sense. Now I understand why I was feeling that. I understand why I was sad. Like they were wrapping my hands and like, I was crying, man. Like I didn't know really why, but like I was crying, you know. And then yeah, I cried before the fight. I cried after the fight.
I mean, understandably so. And just to kind of curtail this for some people, if you've never had a family member in hospice, it usually means they're circling the end of their journey.
Yeah.
So somewhere in the back of your mind, logically, you know, it's a reality that's happening sooner than later. But the compounding of it with the emotions you feel during a fight week, where you do have to be selfish and you do have to take things very much in your world, it's hard to navigate those two things. So what they did do for you with your family, very kindly did for you was,
I appreciate them.
don't do that yet.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of it, because after the fight, after the win, you have all the time in the world to do your healing, and you'll do it as a family. So when you walked out of the cage, did you share any words with your mom as you were walking out, or did you just kind of like tell her like, you know what, I had a feeling?
Man, I mean, that was a pretty cool moment to share with my mom, you know, like in the cage, getting interviewed, front and center, big crowd, you know, like, my mom's never had that feeling, like in the cage after, big crowd, eyes on you, mic on you. It's a feeling, man, and it's a feeling that I know we all chase. And for her to get some of that feeling, kind of get in on it, but on her own variation of like expressing herself, honoring her mom, honoring my grandma, you know, I am so grateful it happened that way, because she got to share that moment of glory in the cage with me, but in her variation, in her expressive way, in her, you know, like the mic was on her. They interviewed her first and she went off, and I'm like, then they brought it to me and I'm like, man, how am I going to top that? You know, like literally they asked me some stuff and I was like, I'm just happy to be here. And I'm grateful. I won, man. Like, thank you so much, God, you know, where my mom was like, you know, she got to do the whole thing. So
I mean,
she got to do the whole thing with me. Like she, you know, she was a little gladiator too.
Full disclosure, before I was able to piece everything together, and again, at the bar drinking, and I saw your mom talking, I just saw her personality come out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck you. I'm not going to interview you. I want to interview her too.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought that. And then again, you hear the other parts and you just go like, huh. Those are one of the moments that we as audience members get to share with you and your family, even though we weren't a part of it until that moment happened. And so when she did that, by proxy, what she did is she brought everybody into your family that day. And I don't know a certain person or any kind of person that wouldn't feel something in that moment. So I was just like, you know, I knew I wanted to talk to you after the great performance. And I want to circle back to that right now. But I did want to at first acknowledge what did happen, and then, you know, give you the opportunity to speak about it, because I'm sure in the day since you put up some great posts about your grandma, and you were very reflective and you honored her very well. But it does feel so great, I'm sure, to have honored her unwittingly. Yeah. And to be able to have that turn out like that. So super. I felt very, very happy for you and for your entire family. So
that moment will always be really dear in my heart, because like through my hard work, through my resiliency, I was able to make my family rise, to make their heart feel better, my mom make her heart feel better, and for fucking 15, 20 minutes, I had the power to make them forget about the whole thing. Yeah. And they were just thinking about right now, what are we doing? Win, 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 you know? And like, it was really cool to give my family that moment, to give them a 15, 20 minute break where it's like, yo, nothing else matters, but this is real life shit. This is fight or flight survival stuff. Like, in a cage, locked, real shit. You know what I mean? So everybody forgot for 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. And then my mom too, you know, like, and then after, like, this whole week we're doing the funeral stuff. This whole week we're doing, you know, so I've just been trying to stay home, take some time off, and just be around with my mother and just be there for her, whatever she needs, whatever she wants, you know what I mean? Like, I know no matter how old you get, like, your mommy leaving is always going to hurt, man. Absolutely. So I know she's going through it right now, so I'm just trying to be there for her, and I'm glad I could give her that moment. You know, it's always better when you see your son win, whoop somebody's ass, than get their ass whooped.
The one thing that did cross my mind was, thank God he won.
Thank God, yeah, because it could have gone the other way.
If you hadn't have won, and then you got barraged with that news,
yeah, man,
you know, then you think about compounding those things, and it's a risk that you take. And you would never want that pressure to be on your mom, to have her feel guilt for any of that sort of stuff, when in actuality, all she's doing is out of love. So I'm so glad that that's the result. And
best case scenario, I'm so grateful.
Absolutely. So let's get to the actual performance in itself, because I think it's important that the audience kind of knows that's the kind of context we go into. But I do want to not overlook the fact that it was a really solid performance all around. And when you talk about getting a finish for the first time in your pro career, that's also huge. So talk to me about the fight and your recollection of going into it, because to me, I like when I see somebody walk out to the cage and I see them look laser focused. And I thought from that moment I saw you walk out, I was like, we're in for a great performance here tonight. So talk to me about what that felt like.
Yeah, man, I walked out and, I woke up that morning and showered, looked myself in the mirror, and I'm like, yo, we're not taking no for an answer today. Like, we are not taking no for an answer. I'm getting my hand raised, I'm getting my victory, and that's that. Like, it doesn't matter who's there, it doesn't matter who's around, it does not matter. Like, I'm determined, I'm focused, and I know I'm going to do great because I prepared, and I did. I was just focused, and I had just made a self-contract that, like, we're coming out here a winner,
Oh, you good.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, well, hold on, just a
full
little note here. I think my man Rick's trying to make sure we don't get a DCMA takedown because somebody's playing Eminem. It's all good. You know what the nice part is? You can tell you have a good producer instinct in you because you were like, not on my watch.
I'm like, you got to go, dude. Like, no, cut it.
Dude, I cannot kid you this. This is how much I know my gym loves me. For ADCC, I was supposed to do one day of the Fight Companion at Frosto's and one at Milton's. And I called up Frosto and I was like, hey, man, I think your wireless is out. And he goes, oh, shit, I'm sorry, bro. And he was away. I go, all right, I'm going to go back to Milton's.
Yeah.
Milton's like, come here. We'll do the Fight Companion here. I was like, okay, man. Aren't you going to have open mat, though? And he goes, yeah. And I go, I can't make you guys not have music.
Yeah.
Like, what a dick. Like, we're not sociopaths. We're not rolling with you. If they want music, they have music. And he goes, fuck them. Nobody will play music when you are on. And I was like, that's a lot to ask.
You don't like listening to grunts and grasp for air? No, I'm just kidding.
But they were so worried that because we had a live broadcast, we might get taken down because they're playing music. So all of those guys, to their credit, for the entire 2 to 3 hours of open mat,
quiet,
just super like chill, didn't put on any music. And I just remember being like, oh, I would never ask that of them, but that is very cool that they would do that for me. So I like that look in your eye when you were like, nobody's taking this fucking interview down.
No one.
So, all right. Your performance, you were locked in, you were dialed in, you knew in that moment, as you were kind of looking at yourself in the mirror, you were saying nobody's going to beat you that day. However, you also told me about how physically on a fight day off camera, you were mentioning how you embody that, like, this is my turf. Like, that I think is an important distinction because some people go into the mindset that they're going to win.
Yeah.
But it's singular, like, oh, that's my only objective. And they don't take in the entire world that they have to build to be in that world.
Yeah.
So what did it feel like as you were building that world and then making your way out? And then as the fight started, what did that feel like?
It felt right. It felt natural. It felt like this is where I need to be and this is where I should be. And like I said, it starts from the moment you get to the venue. Like, that switch is on, not just when you're walking to the cage. The switch is on when you leave your house, man. Like, the switch is on when you leave your house. Like, somebody wants it on the red light when we're going, whatever, you can get it at the red light. And I'm gonna get the other guy at the fucking cage. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I was, man. Like, yeah.
I was very pleased to see you demonstrate, like, as you were going through that fight, you looked very much in control. But I want you to talk to me about your finish. So what I noticed, though, when you mentioned how you go through different phases, you've gone through some grappling phases, you've gone through a Muay Thai phase. When you hit upon that, those knees that you were hitting, though, to me stuck out quite well to the point where it essentially was part of the formula that got you the win. So when did you know you were pulling away with the fight?
So that whole camp, I didn't really do any grappling. I just came off of surgery. I was very mistrusting. I was very in a dark spot. And I was very just isolating myself, The majority of that camp was done on a bag. That's it. By myself on a bag. I want to say the first, that was a 6-7 month camp with rehab. getting back, not being able to use my whole right side, you know, just firing off my other weapons, and just staying home. I have my nice little setup at home, and just firing off rounds in my backyard. You know, I didn't feel like I was up to par, and I didn't feel like I was quality, so I didn't want to show my face around the gym. You know what I mean? I like giving people good. You know, I don't like giving people Rick with 3 limbs. So I stayed home, and I licked my wounds, and I got good with 3 limbs. And then I came back to play once the other one was good, you know? But even at that, like, I didn't do any grappling. Like, I was just drilling by myself, get-ups by myself, and then, yeah, but, like, doing a lot of bag work. And here and there, some mitts. But even that, like, I didn't feel like I deserved someone to hold mitts for me. You know what I mean? It's like, how is this half-ass effort? I'm missing a limb. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I don't want to waste your time. I'll go waste the bag's time. The bag has a lot of time. It doesn't care, doesn't bitch, doesn't complain, you know. Let me give you when I, you know, like now I'm finally starting after the fight. I'm starting to go back to like mitt work.
Yeah.
Right? But like for that fight, I didn't really prepare. You know, I did what I could. I did a lot of running and I hit the bag. Not even kidding. I got my 100,000 reps on the bag. And then I went and I showed out and I was confident, man. Like I knew I knew my numbers were gonna blow this guy's numbers out of the water. You know, so I don't care who he trained with. His profile pic is with him and his training partner. I don't know if you know him, Dominic Cruz. UFC 135 champion, right? That's gonna rattle most 135ers.
Right.
I said, fuck this guy. Not even you and Dominic Cruz have put in as much reps as me. You know, and like that's my mind, man. That's my mind, you know, like, and I've been like that since I was a kid, and I do a lot of stuff alone, and it's just made me very strong. You know, I grew up on the bus and on the train alone, and like no one ever had my back, so like I don't expect people to have my back. You know what I mean? Like I have my back. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was.
Well, let me see if I can curtail something here. Mentally wise, the ability to say, I don't want to waste people's time.
Yeah.
I do understand that. However, I do have to point out somewhat of the absurdity of that. If that's the whole purpose of a team, is that you work around those limitations. Nobody's sitting there being like, well, fuck this guy. One arm over here can't come over to practice. Like,
yeah.
My perspective is this, and perhaps it's different when you are an actual fighter. But I always tell people, like, everybody has a role who is in fight camp. Mm-hmm. Like, this is our wrestling guy. This is our, like, fucking beast. This is our Mad Enforcer, so it's going to be bad rounds. Yeah. Like, it's going to be tough. Like, everybody serves a role. So even if you can't give half of your body in terms of your arm, the talent and the wealth that you bring is still valuable. So... I don't know that that's something that you want to continue to have in the future, just from the outside perspective. But like, just know if I was in the room, the call that would have come from me is you need to stop being a bitch and show the fuck up at the gym.
No, I was coming to the gym,
but you weren't wasting people's time.
I was going to the gym.
Okay,
and I was taking the class, but I was working with the bag.
Man, that you know what though, I can understand. At least you're still getting in work.
No, I did everything.
But it's still
just
the
no
idea
partner.
That you're like,
I just didn't want a partner.
Wow.
I just didn't want that. I didn't want a partner. I didn't trust anyone. I'm like, I don't. The bag I trust.
Okay.
And so now I'm finally out of that. It took me like 6-7 months of that.
When you were saying that, were you in the? Because I know you mentioned it's a 7-month fight camp, right?
Yeah.
But that was still like maybe at month 4 when you're coming out of recovery. Yeah. So it's a little bit different. But
even then, in my sling, like I was. You know, running 10 miles in a sling.
Yeah.
I was, you know, like stuff like that. Like I don't know. I'm very grateful for that time, man. It just made me very, very mentally strong. And like, that was the one that really made me realize, like, I have all the answers already.
I mean, I just want to point this out. I hope that your strategy is one that proves Dustin Poirier right, because you guys will know the answer in the future. But reports that I were reading this week were saying that Dustin Poirier has just been hitting a heavy bag as well. And so it gives me some hope that there is a Dustin Poirier win. But when you realize that he's going up against Islam Makhachev, you're like, did you do anything else, bud? We working anything else, man? But
yeah, and I mean, like, obviously that's not how I usually train,
Right,
you know,
right,
but
right.
this was like, you know, you're given jobs, right? Just like real life, you're given jobs, there's a deadline, and you got to make that shit happen. No ifs, ands, or buts. You know what I mean? I was given a job, I was given a deadline, and I was going to make it happen. And I think it was more of me, like, not even... It wasn't the training. It was more of me dealing with it. That's how I dealt with it. That's how I emotionally dealt with it. I was scheduled if I had a nice big fight, and then I couldn't do it anymore. Then that pulled out, and then that opportunity was gone. And then, you know, like, I'm broke. I feel alone. I feel isolated. You know, like, that was just how I dealt with it. But I'm like, man, I gotta deal with this, but be productive at the same time. So what is the best way I can deal with this and be productive? And the thing with the partner is because, like, they weren't getting a good, happy, good side Rick. They were getting a very frustrated, a very dark, a very... So it wasn't that, like I know I have value, and I know I bring value, and I know I'm very knowledgeable. But I also know when I'm in, like, that kind of mood and that kind of, like, energy and that kind of dark aura, like, it's contagious, man. And I wouldn't want to pass it. I wouldn't want to be around.
Yeah.
So it was more of that. It was more of me being courteous to others and their emotions. I'm empathetical, don't worry. And
I want to point this out. It's just, to me, hearing that with more context does help.
Yeah.
But it's so... I think one of the hardest levels of training is having that layer of trust where you can let people in, and the idea of the team is to help you in that place.
Yeah.
And I understand that you don't want to drag them down, but they're supposed to lift you up.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a different layer, and it's hard to get there. But I would say, because here's the reason why I mention it: the tasks and the missions are going to get harder
and harder.
And so when that happens, if you can figure out how to navigate it now, you don't have as many issues. So I would just say, for your own mental health wise, it's my recommendation. Outside, what do I know? But it just tells me, because I'm like, dude, think about this. Like, the fact that you could put on that performance with the limitations at first, and then with the focus that you did, is like, man, imagine when you dial in or you throw this back in or that back in.
Yeah.
It's just a limitless potential. So that's why I like that.
And I'm very grateful, because that's what we're doing now, right? We're going back to the drawing board. We're going back to all the stuff that we used to do. But now I have a whole nother power.
Yeah.
And I know what to do. And I know that, man, if it needs to be done alone, it can be done alone. Obviously, we want people to be a part of this. Yeah. Obviously, it's a team effort. Obviously, you go in there alone, but there's a lot of people behind the curtain, you know? For me, it was just like, man, like, I'm going to be an asshole to all the people I love and all the people around behind the curtain, so I'm just not going to go behind the curtain until I feel I'm ready. And I was ready the day of the fight. That's when the curtain, I got back there, and we were all good. You know what I mean? But, like, yeah, that's just how I am, man. Like, I like bringing people quality and good stuff. And if you hang out with Slick Rick, you talk with Slick Rick, you do anything with Slick Rick, you eat with Slick, it's a good fucking time. You're going to leave with a smile on your face, and you're going to laugh. You're going to have a good time. During that period, that wasn't there, you know, that person wasn't there. It was like, I was frustrated. I was mad. I was like, oh, you got two limbs. I got one, you know, like,
yeah.
So I just stayed away, but I got better. I got good. Like, I got good, man. There's a lot of things you can do. There's a lot of things you can do by yourself. You don't need nobody. You don't need a bunch of people doing stuff for you. You can do the majority of the work alone. Do you need help? Do you need people? Absolutely. But 80% of the work can be done alone. 20% you need, you know.
It's the power of isolation.
Yeah.
Like, if you can conquer a lot, you know, people have to go through that. Certain things that allow them to be there, because as you mentioned, yes, it's such a mental fuck, this sport. Like, you will always be tested in ways that are outside of just training or punching or grappling. So being able to navigate that is why I'm always so like, yo, dude, don't beat yourself up more than you need to. Lean on this. And what I like to tell people is I'm like, you know, certain people won't know what's happening until you kind of go there. So at the very least, you found a way to make it very positive for you and work in that. So for that, thank God. That's great.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you mentioned this a little bit earlier, which is coming up on 10 years. What does that mean specifically to you? Because, you know, you're saying the goal is to get to the UFC.
I will.
So with that in mind, what are the next steps? In your brain, what happens next for you?
Well, I just paid for these hefty, pricey California medicals and licensing. So I'm going to do a California tour, and I'm going to go up north, I'm going to go down south, and I'm going to finish it off in LA. But that's the plan for the next 8 months, you know, or what's left in this year, 6 months. My goal is in the next 6 months to get 3 fights, one up north, one down south, and one in LA. And then from there, we'll start going other places. We'll start touring other places. You know what I mean? I just look at it as art, man. You know, just drawing shit up, selling my work these places. People like it, people don't, whatever. I don't give a shit. But I'm gonna put out the art, and I'm gonna put out the products, and I'm gonna live good, and I'm gonna make it happy, and it's what makes me happy. So it's what I do, man. I only do things that make me happy now. And I'm just kind of living in the state, man, you know, like in the state of just belief, faith, self-belief, you know, encouraging myself, encouraging others around me, uplifting people, and just trying to fucking help people and be a good person, man. And just keep working on my skills, you know, sharpening all my blades and adding new techniques. And, you know, it's kind of cool. You know, I've been watering this plant for a long time, man. And like, finally I'm starting to see a couple fruits, you know. It's not the big fruit I want yet. But it's a couple fruits, a couple buddings here and there. So I know I'm doing the right thing. I know the work's paying off, and you know, I'm gonna go get some alkaline water and start watering even more, man.
Nice.
You know, so that's that. Yeah, California tour this year. Slick's Cali tour. That's what I'm calling it. The Slick Show is touring Cali.
Dude,
Started in Long Beach, and you know, maybe Sacramento, San Diego, and then we'll end it in LA.
That's awesome, man. What a great outline for the next immediate future. I'm obviously wishing you well on that, man, because to see just from the sidelines, you know, when you have that familiarity, when you see you emerging as a blue belt, and you have those kind of first impressions.
A blue belt with only grappling.
Yeah.
One lick is striking.
Yeah. but the thing is that it's part of everybody's journey that I find so wild is you can't ever make assumptions. You don't know anything. So a lot of what I do is I walk in as just this observer kind of picking up things. And then sometimes I learn like, oh, that dude's been doing this now. Okay, cool. Or you see somebody who's bringing in wrestling talent and you go, where did that come from? I haven't seen that. Who'd you work with? But in your particular case, it was seeing you but not knowing you yet.
Yeah.
Then finding out we have similar friends and kind of having, you know, certain things about you. And then continuing to see your great work in the cage. So we obviously wish you well on that. What I would like to do is, you see that camera right there?
Yes, sir.
That camera belongs to you. So what I would like for you to do is I'm going to give you an opportunity to go and thank any of your sponsors, your team that helped you on this performance, or anybody you want to give a shout out to, because obviously it is a big undertaking to be able to make these things happen. So, sir, camera is all on you.
Cool. What's up, guys? Slick Rick here, professional MMA fighter. Just want to say thank you to everybody that supports me. Thank you to everybody that's been riding with me. Anybody that's ever given me a round, give me some knowledge, peep me some game. I really, really appreciate it. My goal is to honor you guys and really represent you at the highest level in a good fashion. And yeah, on that note, to all my teams, Saxon Muay Thai, Cobrinha Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Matador Training, all my sponsors, Eliminate Brand, Zelada, Legend of Zelada shirts. You guys can go online, eliminatebrand.com, pop a shirt, support your boy. And yeah, just all my sponsors, Hayabusa, man, too many to name, Graps, Dr. Rabati, always fixing me up. Scott Shinnick, body support, putting me back together. Simone on the hair. Miss Kate on the war braids. So many sponsors, man. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, and Prophet Lovey, appreciate you, man. Yeah, I'm the Slick Show is coming to the UFC. The Slick Show is touring California this year. And yeah, I'll go represent all over the world soon. So love you guys. One love.
Love to see it. Great job, man. And congratulations. You put in some great work, and you definitely deserve
Thank you. Appreciate
everything
it.
you got, man. So I'm going to go ahead and close this on up. But thank you very much. And thank you for Matador Training for allowing us to come here.
Thank you, Marcos.
And,
Appreciate you.
Do the interview over this way. I appreciate it. They are extended family, and it is always good to be able to visit. And now I know that they're at this facility. It's nice to be able to see it. Because when you saw me, you're like, yo, you need to come. And I was like, bro, like, come on. I'm coming.
Chill.
Dude. Like,
chill.
I'll make it there. It's never an issue. I'm not coming. It's just a matter of when schedule will allow me to be here.
Yeah.
But very nice for the hospitality. All right, before we close on out, a couple quick reminders. First and foremost, if you like this interview, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you don't know what you wanted to comment on in the comment section, I would challenge you to answer this prompt, which is, what brought you back to jiu-jitsu? So if you had something that came up or some kind of story, everybody's got their origin story. I always like knowing what brought people into jiu-jitsu, so I'd love to know what your story is. Maybe you didn't shoplift. Maybe you found a random place and you just went and you were just not a hooligan. Or maybe you're just a nerd that just showed up by proxy one day. Everybody's got a really cool story, and it's always cool to hear them. So put that in the comment section.
Don't shoplift.
Kids, don't shoplift.
Also, follow me, Slick Zelada. That's my username, Instagram. Follow your boy. Good techniques, good training. If you want to train, North Hollywood, Burbank, hit me up.
Oh my God, dude, don't flex on them like that, man. It scares the audience members when you flex on them, dude. They get nervous because they're just like, yo, this dude with guns is like telling me to come train. But
they're registered. They're registered. Don't worry.
You know what it seems like? Here's what it seems like. It's supposed to be like, hey, come train. But then you start throwing the guns. You're like, how about come train right now, fam? It comes
you
off
almost
like,
scared me right there.
Yeah, no, dude, I guarantee you nobody's getting scared off that. A couple last reminders. You can do all that sort of stuff. You can also go to patreon.com/grappling hour. See our interviews 30 days before everybody else. And for a few extra dollars, you can see extra bonus content not available anywhere else, including tape studies, roast RAF, Road to 80cc, where we do breakdowns. A lot of really cool stuff that I do specific for those individuals who buy at that tier. Additionally, go to rafesparza.com/merch. Get you some Grappling Hour t-shirts, some hoodies. Support the show. That goes directly back into the show. I am not a major corporation. I'm one dude. There's literally one guy behind this show. When you see something that fucks up, that's my fuck up. But when you see something that's good, it's also this guy. So, like, you know what I mean?
The best.
I'm all right, man. And last but not least, check us out on Spotify and on Discord and on Apple Podcasts at Grappling Hour. Essentially on every major social media, but that's the ones that we are pushing right now. Ladies and gents, thank you so much for watching this episode. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.